Hi, I'm Sam, and today we're going to drive the Bentley Flying Spur V8. Now, I've had the car for a couple of days. Unlike, you might have seen some previous videos, and this space here, this is the biggest car we've had, and consequently, I can't get it into this bit over here. So we're going to do a walk around a bit later, but we're going to go for a drive up to Bicester Heritage. We're going to go to the Scramble, we're going to go check it out, take some photos, have a wander around, whatnot, and then I'll show you around the car and give you my thoughts. So we're going to get in the car. Let's go. We're in the car, been on the motorway for a little bit. What is this it like? So sort of a longer journey. Well, around town the car feels quite small, but on the motorway that's obviously not a problem. It's very comfy. I haven't done a journey in the back because I'm the only one insured in this car, but well, I'll report back on what that's like a bit later from someone else. But yeah, love the Bentley interior. It's a nice mix of modern and just great little details. My favourite bit on the interior is this sort of diamond stitching on the doors. We'll have a little bit of a look round later, but yeah, it's pretty great. You could just put in cruise control. The adaptive cruise control works very well. On some cars, it's quite jerky when you transition between lanes. This works very well. Just put it on cruise control, off you go. 500 miles later, you get out feeling pretty refreshed. Onwards. We've just made it to Bicester Heritage. Immediately, a couple of people came and wanted to have a look around the Flying Spur. Flying Spur. So I'm going to go and have a little look round. I'm not really bringing this camera. I'm taking a little camera and I'll take my iPhone. Probably take some photos and then we'll be off. Back down and I'll give you my thoughts on the car. Had a little look round and now it's time to get back on the road. We're going to do some quicker driving impressions in a little bit, but to start off, we're driving around town and I've had the car now for this is day 2, just been up to Bicester, now on the way to another location, and overall it's a lovely place to be. It's quiet, it's refined, but it's still got this sort of Bentley character, which I would say would transfer across all of the cars, which is it's got a sporty sort of edge. It's more, I would say Bentleys to me are sporty cars that are luxury rather than a luxury car that's been made sporty, if that makes sense. So this car particularly, if you're going with the air suspension, if you're going over a bump or a speed bump, speed bumps that you can spread, this car is wide enough that you just gap the whole thing. You just go straight over, 20 miles an hour, you don't feel a thing, which is brilliant. Normal speed bumps, the air suspension is just so cushy, it's like that. But if you go like right now, over that was a grate or something in the road, it's a bit of a thump. So sort of single wheel stuff, I would say it's not super refined. It's like somewhere in the middle. Obviously it's still comfy and all that sort of stuff, but there's something about the Bentley cars that they have that character, and I think it's probably to do with the fact that when things get faster, everything is held down and whatnot, but because of that, the ability for wheels to go up and down and the car to maintain it, it's not quite so good. Now, it could just be engineered as part of the feeling, and it makes it feel a little bit sportier. You can feel stuff through the steering wheel, whether the change of texture of the road and stuff like that. Not like a GT3 RS or something, but you can still feel it's there. The length of this car it is huge. Parking in any car parking space is a little bit tricky. I parked at a service station and you park in the bay and it's overhanging at the back and it's overhanging at the front. And it's like that we went into a multi-story car park, it's like that as well. The rear wheel steering is amazing for maneuvering a vehicle this side. You really feel it help you sort of get round a corner, whether it's just like low speed around town, getting into a parking space. It enables you to do stuff that otherwise I think would almost be impossible with a car of this size. So we've got the lovely Bentley interior, which I think is probably my favorite interior in a luxury car, sort of luxury interior, because you've got the touchscreen display that rotates round. Everything feels nice. The seats, this is lovely. It's just a very nice place to be. I'm very impressed with actually the fuel economy on a long run is really impressive. This car, we were doing 30 mpg at sort of, I don't know, 75 or something like that, which in a car that must weigh tons, literally tons, I think that's not bad for a long run. I think you might, let's look at the long-term memory of this car. This car has averaged 24.3 over 361 miles. Now, a chunk of that has been in town, and then a chunk has been motorway. You're going to get, 13 around town or something like that. Big heavy car, big twin turbocharged motor. But to do long distance, I filled up earlier and I've got 510 miles range on the tank. So it's got a big tank. I think it's either 90 or 100 litres. So you can really put some range in. Sitting in the back, I've had a report back from my other half. It's a lovely place to be. She loves the pillows. One thing you'll be able to see here, this is my favourite feature about these seats, other than they're really comfortable, adjustable, blah, blah, massage function, all that stuff, is the headrest. Now, I'm sure one of you guys will point out that this has been in an S-Class or something for 40 years, but I have never experienced a headrest where the headrest can move forward and backwards. Now, I'm sitting in my normal seating position here, and for me to put my head on the headrest and sort of relax, I have to lean quite far back. I was like, oh, it'd be great if the headrest was here. Now you press the headrest button, and it comes forward. And it comes forward really far. And I've never experienced that. I've never realised it's a thing. Maybe it's been on loads of cars, but this is the first car I've ever noticed it. And it is a brilliant feature. It just enables you to just kind of set it for you rather than generic whatever. Something to note as well about the size of the car, it is really wide. Now, my drive has a little set of gates, and every car that I've borrowed and whatnot, and we've had sort of what I've had in there, I've had a Taycan, I've had a Bentley Continental, a few different cars, and this is the widest car that I've had through that space. Now, it's actually uncomfortably tight, and it's a bit of an angle, and it's very awkward, but yeah, it's a proper first world problem. But you do notice this driving the car around. It is wide, and in a city, if you're not used to it, and I'm not massively used to it, I drive my Lusso around, and that's a pretty big car, but this is noticeably bigger, and I don't know whether it's just not quite used to the size and whatnot, but it feels bigger than that, and it makes driving around cities, for me, a little bit uncomfortable, because you're always like, am I going to fit through that gap? Like, ugh. And then the massive length, all the manoeuvring and things like that. Rear wheel steering helps, but it is a big car. Now, I have driven this car reasonably quickly on the Millbrook Proving Ground Alpine circuit and around there. And it's one of those things that is just incredibly impressive. And it's what happens when you put your foot down. All your stuff, which you've jammed under there, goes flying. So if you're planning on driving quickly, you might want to secure more things in here and less over there. There is a charging thing for your phone under there, if you're not plugged into USB, which I imagine probably will be. And if your phone's on there, it's not going to move. But I've charging GoPros and stuff at the same time. When you start to press on, it's one of those experiences. I would say it's incredibly capable. The V8 sounds great. It has, for me, definitely is the one I would get, because you get a bit of a compromise on performance, but it's lighter so it's going to handle a little bit better. You're still maneuvering a very big vehicle, but it's just very capable for sort of pushing on, but you're not going to be, you might laugh because it's kind of so surprisingly ridiculous, but you're not just going to be like hammering it everywhere like you might in a sports car or something like that. But the progress you can make in this thing is pretty impressive. The thing you will run into is its size. Like, it is wide, so if you're on a small country lane, you're going to have problems. You need a little bit more space, a little bit more leeway in this thing. But the V8 is brilliant, sounds really good. I would absolutely have a V8. Steering, there's not much to say about it really. The steering's quite nice. You're maneuvering such a heavy vehicle anyway. The gearbox does exactly what it says on the tin really. The gear shifts are not razor sharp, but then on the flip side, you do get quite a nice bit of sort of progression when you're maneuvering at slow speed, and I think that side of it is much more useful day to day. Like, you want to reverse in somewhere, you can very nicely, slowly reverse. You're not vroom, vroom, vroom. It's not like that at all when you're driving around. If you put your foot down, it will make a nice noise, and off you go at a sort of surprising pace. But other than that, you can. It's a very sort of easy car to maneuver around. Onwards to our next destination.
Well, I told you I'd be here to do a walk around, and as you may be able to see, we are in the Schmuseum. Let's have a little look around the Flying Spur. Walking around, as you can see, we've got some of Tim's crazy cars in the background, but this is in the cricket ball, which we had the Bentley Continental in earlier in the year. It's just a really nice colour, this. I think it's quite refined. Let's have a little look inside. And this car has all of the options. We've got the Mulliner driving specification, which comes with a host of different stuff. It's the 21-inch 10-spoke wheels, lofted diamond design quilting on the seats and in the doors. Now, it is lovely. I've never seen this. It's like a 3D effect, diamond quilting. Works really nicely in this, with this lovely brown. And then because it's a Flying Spur, the back is a pretty nice place to be as well. Now, I've not spent any time driving around in the back because I'm the only person insured in the front, but I've been told it's a very nice place to be. We've got these lovely cushions, got all the controls there for your seats and whatnot. The back doesn't have the headrest thing, but you're a bit more reclined back here. We've got a little control there. If we fire up the car, you can change a bunch of the settings, including putting up and down the little Bentley logo on the bonnet. Let's continue our tour. Let's come around the back. Press the Bentley button. And we've got a pretty big boot. You can get quite a lot in here. I've just chucked a lot of camera gear in there. You've got a through loading facility if you wanted to chuck some skis through. You can't fold down the seats, but you can get luggage for a couple of people in there, no problem. And yeah, that is it. That is the Flying Spur. It is ginormous. Let's have a look at the engine. Nearly there. There we go. There's your engine. Don't really see very much these days. Lots of plastic covers. Quite warm under there. 542 brake horsepower and 770 newton meters of torque, which is, I think, it's 84 horsepower less than the W12, but it's 100 kilos lighter. So I don't think the performance difference is that much, and you just get a little bit less weight in the front. Let's have a look at some of Tim's cars. That was Tim's first ever car, little Clio. Well, this was exactly the same spec as the one he used to have. We did one of our first road trips in this car down to the Alps. Then we have Tim's Vantage, which we've done a bunch of road trips in as well. It's amazing, really cool to see that car back. That is the first, I think that is possibly the first rear-wheel drive car I've ever driven. It was definitely the first powerful rear-wheel drive car I'd ever driven, and I was pretty apprehensive at the time. and just an amazing bunch of stuff in here. Crazy spec. And then I've driven both of those. I've driven most of the cars in here. There's definitely some I haven't driven, so I'm gonna have to poke Tim. Right, we've had a little look round, had a poke around some of the cars. Time to get out of here, get back home. Right, I think this is quite a good place to wrap this up. Conclusions of the Bentley Flying Spur V8. V8, absolutely, that's the one to have. I think as a place to be in the back, it's lovely. There's so much space. To drive, it's pretty good. The only problem for me is the size in town. It makes me a bit nervous driving something this big and this long, not so much, but just super wide. But other than that, and then the ride going down a road, it's pretty nice, but if you drop a wheel in something, it doesn't absorb it that well. So if you just drop into like a little grate or something like that, you really feel it, which I think when you go faster, it's not so much of a problem, but just sort of that waftiness driving around. However, it's lovely. I love all the materials. I particularly like this interior package, sound system, everything. It's just a really nice place to spend some time. So thank you very much, Bentley, for lending me the car, and I'll see you guys in the next video.